The sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the practice room, casting long shadows across the polished wooden floor. 16-year-old Lily sat at the grand piano, her fingers hovering nervously over the keys. Outside, spring had arrived at the Westlake Music Academy, but Lily hadn't noticed. For the past 3 months, she'd barely seen daylight, spending every free moment practicing for the upcoming regional music competition. "Again," said Dr. Reynolds from his position by the window. His voice wasn't particularly loud, but it filled the room with undeniable authority. From the beginning of the third movement, Lily nodded, repositioning her hands. She took a deep breath and began to play Chopin's Ballade No. 1 for what felt like the 100th time that week. The familiar notes flowed from her fingers, each one precise and technically perfect, just as she'd practiced countless times before. But 30 seconds in, Dr. Reynolds raised his hand, and Lily immediately stopped playing. "What did I tell you about the emotional expression in this section?" he asked, his eyebrows drawing together in a frown that Lily had come to dread. "That it needs to build gradually," Lily replied softly, her eyes fixed on the sheet music in front of her. "And yet you're playing it like you're reading a shopping list," Dr. Reynolds said, walking over to the piano. He was a tall man in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a reputation as one of the finest piano instructors in the state. He was also known for his uncompromising standards and brutal honesty. "Technical precision isn't enough, Lily. Without emotion, you might as well be a robot. The audience needs to feel something." Lily nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. She'd spent hours perfecting those measures, playing them over and over until her fingers ached. But somehow it was never enough for Dr. Reynolds. "Let me show you," he said, gesturing for Lily to move aside. She slid off the bench and Dr. Reynolds took her place. His hands descended on the keys, and suddenly the room was filled with music that sounded nothing like what Lily had been playing moments before. The same notes, yes, but somehow imbued with a depth of feeling that made her chest tighten. When he finished, Dr. Reynolds looked up at her. "Do you hear the difference?" "Yes," Lily said quietly, though she wasn't entirely sure she could replicate what he'd done. "The regional competition is in 2 weeks," Dr. Reynolds reminded her, standing up from the bench. "You're representing Westlake. I selected you for this opportunity because I believe you have potential, but potential means nothing without the work to back it up." Lily returned to the bench, trying to ignore the knot forming in her stomach. "I'll keep practicing. See that you do. I expect you here tomorrow morning at 7. We'll work on this section again." With that, Dr. Reynolds gathered his materials and left the practice room, the door closing with a soft click behind him. As soon as he was gone, Lily's shoulders slumped. She stared at the sheet music in front of her, the notes beginning to blur as tears welled in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. Crying wouldn't help her play any better. The truth was, Lily knew she was lucky to be studying with Dr. Reynolds. Her parents reminded her of this fact regularly, especially on days when she came home discouraged by his criticism. "He only pushes you because he sees something special in you," her mother would say, and Lily believed that most days. After all, Dr. Reynolds had chosen her from dozens of students to represent Westlake at the regional competition, a prestigious event that attracted talent scouts from top music conservatories across the country. But sometimes, like today, it was hard to remember why she loved playing the piano in the first place. Lily glanced at her watch. She had the practice room booked for another hour, and she wasn't about to waste it. Straightening her back, she positioned her hands over the keys once more and began to play, trying to channel the emotion Dr. Reynolds had demonstrated. The next day, Lily arrived at the academy at 6:30, hoping to get in some practice before her session with Dr. Reynolds. The hallways were quiet this early, most students not arriving until classes began at 9. She loved this peaceful time, when she could play without feeling like she was being judged. She was surprised to find the door to her usual practice room already open, soft music drifting into the hallway. Peering inside, she saw another student, Thomas, playing the very same Chopin piece she'd been struggling with. Thomas was a year older than Lily, with a confident demeanor that matched his playing style. He'd won several competitions already and was rumored to have offers from prestigious music programs. Lily stood in the doorway listening as Thomas played through the third movement, with a fluidity and emotion that made her heart sink. This was how the piece was supposed to sound: alive, passionate, moving. Sensing her presence, Thomas stopped playing and turned around. "Oh, hey," he said with a friendly smile. "Sorry, am I in your room?" Lily shook her head quickly. No. I was just listening. You play beautifully." Thomas shrugged. "Thanks. I've been working on this piece for a while now." "Are you preparing it too?" "Yes, for the regional competition," Lily admitted, immediately regretting her words. She didn't want Thomas to know she was struggling with a piece he played so effortlessly. "Cool. Dr. Reynolds is having me prepare it as a backup," Thomas said casually, turning back to the piano. Lily felt her stomach drop. A backup? Did that mean Dr. Reynolds didn't fully trust her to perform well? Before she could dwell on this thought, she heard footsteps in the hallway and turned to see Dr. Reynolds approaching, his leather briefcase in hand. "Ah, good, you're both here," he said, nodding at Thomas and Lily. "Thomas, how's the Chopin coming along?" "Pretty well, I think," Thomas replied. "I've been working on the dynamics in the third movement." "Like you suggested." "Good. Let me hear it from the beginning," Dr. Reynolds said, setting his briefcase down on a nearby chair. Lily stood awkwardly by the door, unsure if she should stay or find another practice room. Before she could decide, Dr. Reynolds glanced at her. "Lily, you should listen. You might learn something." Heat rose to her cheeks as she nodded and moved to stand in a corner of the room. For the next 15 minutes, she watched as Thomas played through the piece, occasionally stopping when Dr. Reynolds offered guidance. Unlike with Lily, Dr. Reynolds' feedback to Thomas was mostly positive, with only minor suggestions for improvement. "Excellent work," Dr. Reynolds said when Thomas finished. "Keep polishing those final measures, but overall very strong." Thomas beamed at the praise, closing the piano lid. "Thanks, Dr. Reynolds. I'll keep working on it." As Thomas gathered his things to leave, Dr. Reynolds turned to Lily. "Your turn," he said, gesturing toward the piano. Lily took a deep breath and sat down at the bench Thomas had just vacated. The keys still felt warm beneath her fingers. She began to play, trying to channel both the emotion Dr. Reynolds had demonstrated yesterday and the fluidity she just heard in Thomas's performance. She made it through the first 2 pages before Dr. Reynolds stopped her. "You're rushing," he said, tapping his finger against the sheet music.
"And there's still not enough dynamic contrast."
"It sounds flat." Lily nodded, trying to absorb the criticism without letting it crush her spirit. "I'll try again." For the next hour, Lily played the same sections repeatedly, making small adjustments based on Dr. Reynolds' feedback. By the end of the session, her fingers were tired and her confidence was even more shaken than before. "We'll continue tomorrow," Dr. Reynolds said, closing his notebook. "And Lily, I want you to attend the ensemble rehearsal this afternoon. The orchestra needs to practice with a soloist. And it will be good experience for you?" "Yes, sir," Lily replied, gathering her sheet music. As Dr. Reynolds left the room, Lily remained at the piano staring at the keys. The regional competition was now just 13 days away. She had been practicing this piece for months, and yet it still wasn't good enough. Would it ever be? Later that day, Lily arrived at the large rehearsal hall for the ensemble practice. The orchestra was already set up, with students tuning their instruments and chatting amongst themselves. At the front of the room, Dr. Reynolds was speaking with the orchestra conductor, Mr. Chen. Lily took a seat near the piano, setting her sheet music on the stand. Around her, the noise gradually died down as Mr. Chen called the rehearsal to order. "Good afternoon, everyone," Mr. Chen said, his voice carrying throughout the hall. "Today we'll be rehearsing the full program for the regional competition, including the Chopin Ballade No. 1, which will be performed by our soloist." Lily straightened in her seat, preparing to move to the piano when called. "Before we begin," Mr. Chen continued, "I'd like to remind everyone that this is our final major rehearsal before the competition. The performance will be attended by representatives from several prestigious conservatories, so it's essential that we present Westlake at its absolute best." From the corner of her eye, Lily saw Dr. Reynolds step forward. "Which is why," he said, addressing the entire ensemble, "after careful consideration, I've decided that Thomas will be performing the piano solo at the competition." Lily felt as if all the air had been sucked from the room. She sat frozen in her seat, unable to process what she'd just heard. Thomas has demonstrated the level of technical proficiency and emotional maturity this piece requires, Dr. Reynolds continued, seemingly unaware of Lily's presence just a few feet away. "Lily will continue as our alternate, of course." The room fell silent for a moment before Mr. Chen cleared his throat. Well then, let's welcome Thomas to the piano. As if in a dream, Lily watched as Thomas walked to the front of the room, taking the seat she had expected to occupy. He arranged his sheet music and nodded to Mr. Chen, ready to begin. Lily remained in her seat, her sheet music now useless in her hands. Around her she could feel the curious glances of the other students. Some sympathetic, others simply relieved it wasn't them facing such public disappointment. As the orchestra began to play and Thomas's confident notes filled the hall, Lily finally understood. She had never been the first choice. She had only been practicing all these months as a backup, in case Thomas couldn't perform. The realization stung worse than any criticism Dr. Reynolds had ever given her. Lily somehow made it through the rest of the rehearsal without crying. She sat stiffly in her chair, clutching her sheet music as the orchestra practiced with Thomas. Each note he played felt like a personal failure to her. Was he really that much better? Or had Dr. Reynolds simply never believed in her from the start? When Mr. Chen finally called the end of rehearsal, Lily gathered her things quickly, hoping to slip out before anyone could offer awkward condolences. But as she headed for the door, she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Lily, wait up," said a familiar voice. She turned to find her friend Alex, who played violin in the orchestra. Alex's kind eyes were filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Alex asked quietly. Lily forced a smile. "I'm fine. It's no big deal." "It is a big deal," Alex insisted. "You've been working toward this for months. Everyone knows how hard you've been practicing." Lily glanced around nervously, afraid Dr. Reynolds might overhear. "Really, it's okay. Thomas is better anyway." "That's not true," Alex said firmly. "You're amazing, Lily. Dr. Reynolds is just—" Alex trailed off, clearly not wanting to openly criticize the respected instructor. "Just what?" came a stern voice from behind them. Lily's stomach dropped as she turned to find Dr. Reynolds standing there, arms crossed over his chest. "Nothing, sir," Alex mumbled, suddenly finding the floor very interesting. Dr. Reynolds turned his attention to Lily. "I assume you understand my decision?" Lily nodded automatically, though understanding was far from what she felt. "Good," Dr. Reynolds continued. "You'll continue practicing, of course. As the alternate, you need to be prepared in case anything happens to Thomas." "Yes, sir," Lily said quietly. "I expect to see you at tomorrow's practice session, same time as usual," he added. Before walking away to speak with Mr. Chen, Alex waited until Dr. Reynolds was out of earshot before whispering, "What a jerk." Despite everything, Lily found herself defending him. "He's just doing what's best for the academy." "Is he?" Alex asked skeptically. "Or is he just playing favorites? Everyone knows Thomas is his star pupil." Lily had no answer for that. "I should go," she said instead. "My dad's waiting to pick me up." Outside, the spring afternoon was warm and bright, a cruel contrast to the storm of emotions inside her. Lily spotted her father's blue sedan in the pickup area and walked over, trying to compose herself before getting in. She didn't want to cry in front of him. Her father, Mr. Chen, smiled as she approached. "Hey, kiddo. How was rehearsal?" Lily slid into the passenger seat, buckling her seatbelt before answering. "Fine." Mr. Chen frowned slightly, putting the car in drive. "Just fine. Wasn't today the big rehearsal with the orchestra?" Lily stared out the window, watching the academy grounds disappear as they drove away. "Dr. Reynolds picked Thomas to play the solo instead of me." Her father's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What? When did this happen?" "Today, during rehearsal." Lily swallowed hard, fighting back tears. "He announced it in front of everyone." Mr. Chen was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. "Did he give you a reason?" "He said Thomas has the technical proficiency and emotional maturity the piece requires," Lily replied, the words still stinging as she repeated them. "That's ridiculous," her father said, his voice rising slightly. "You've been working on that piece for months. You play it beautifully." "Not according to Dr. Reynolds," Lily said, finally letting a few tears escape. "He's always saying I play like a robot, that I don't have enough emotion." Mr. Chen pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to face his daughter. "Lily, look at me." Reluctantly, she met her father's gaze. "You are an incredible pianist," he said firmly. "Your mother and I have watched you grow and develop over the years, and we couldn't be prouder of your talent and dedication." But what if Dr. Reynolds is right? Lily asked, her voice small. What if I just don't have what it takes? Dr. Reynolds is one man with one opinion, her father replied. An important opinion in the world of Westlake Academy, yes, but still just one opinion. Music is subjective. What moves one person might not move another. Lily nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced. What do you want to do? Her father asked gently. What do you mean? Do you want to continue as the alternate? Or would you prefer to step back from this competition altogether? Lily considered the question. The thought of going back to Westlake tomorrow, facing Dr. Reynolds and Thomas and all the other students who had witnessed her humiliation, made her stomach churn. But the alternative, giving up, felt even worse. I want to keep practicing, she said finally, just in case. Her father smiled, reaching over to squeeze her shoulder. That's my girl. And for what it's worth, I think you play with plenty of emotion, sometimes too much even. This drew a small smile from Lily. Thanks, Dad. When they arrived home, Lily's mother, Mrs. Chen, was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The smell of her famous dumplings filled the house, usually one of Lily's favorite meals. But today she had no appetite. There's my piano star, Mrs. Chen called out cheerfully as Lily and her father entered. How was the big rehearsal? Lily and her father exchanged a look, and Mrs. Chen's smile faded. What happened? Mr. Chen explained the situation while Lily sat quietly at the kitchen table, tracing patterns on the wooden surface with her finger. He did what? Mrs. Chen exclaimed, her wooden spoon frozen mid-stir. In front of everyone. That's completely unprofessional. I know, Mr. Chen agreed. But Lily wants to continue practicing, just in case she's needed for the performance. Mrs. Chen set down her spoon and came to sit beside Lily at the table. Is that really what you want, sweetie? Lily nodded. I've put too much work into this piece to just give up now. Her mother reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind Lily's ear, a gesture of affection she'd been doing since Lily was small. I'm so proud of you, not just for your playing, but for your perseverance. That evening after dinner, Lily retreated to the family room where their upright piano stood against the wall. It wasn't as grand as the ones at the academy, but it had been her first piano, the one she'd learned on, and it still felt like home to her fingers. She sat down and began to play the Chopin piece, not from the sheet music but from memory. Without Dr. Reynolds watching over her shoulder, without the pressure of perfection, she found herself playing differently. The notes flowed more naturally, and she felt something stirring inside her as the music built to its emotional peaks. From the doorway, her parents watched silently, exchanging meaningful glances. This was how Lily truly played when she wasn't paralyzed by fear of criticism. The next few days fell into a painful routine. Lily would arrive at Westlake early each morning for her practice session with Dr. Reynolds, who continued to critique her playing, as if nothing had changed. Then she would sit through ensemble rehearsals, watching as Thomas took what should have been her place at the piano. Thomas himself wasn't unkind about the situation. In fact, he seemed almost uncomfortable with Dr. Reynolds' obvious favoritism, often going out of his way to compliment Lily's playing when the instructor wasn't around. Your interpretation of the middle section is actually better than mine, he told her one day after rehearsal. You bring out the melody in a way I can't quite manage. Lily appreciated his kindness, but it didn't ease the sting of rejection. And as the days passed, her hope of somehow reclaiming her spot dwindled. The competition was now just 3 days away, and Dr. Reynolds seemed more convinced than ever that Thomas was the right choice. Your playing has improved, he admitted during their Thursday morning session, but it still lacks the confidence the piece requires. Thomas commands the audience's attention. You merely ask for it. Lily nodded automatically, having learned that arguing or defending herself only made things worse. That afternoon, as she sat through yet another ensemble rehearsal, Lily noticed something unusual. Thomas seemed distracted, missing cues and playing wrong notes, mistakes she'd never heard him make before. During a short break, she overheard him talking to another student. I don't know what's wrong with me today, he was saying, rubbing his stomach. I feel awful. Maybe it was the cafeteria food, the other student suggested. Half the orchestra is complaining about those chicken wraps from lunch. Thomas nodded grimly. Yeah, probably. I'll be fine by tomorrow. But the next day, Thomas wasn't at rehearsal. Mr. Chen announced that he had come down with food poisoning and was at home recovering. Dr. Reynolds assures me he'll be well enough for the competition on Saturday, Mr. Chen added, though he didn't sound entirely convinced. Lily felt a strange mix of emotions. She certainly didn't wish illness on Thomas, but a small guilty part of her wondered if this might be her chance. After rehearsal, Dr. Reynolds approached her. "You'll need to fill in for Thomas at tomorrow's final practice," he said, his tone making it clear this was a necessary inconvenience rather than an opportunity. "He should be recovered by Saturday, but we need a soloist for the run-through." "Yes, sir," Lily replied, trying to hide the flutter of excitement in her chest. One more chance to play with the orchestra, even if it was just a practice. That night, Lily practiced later than usual, going over every note, every dynamic marking, every emotional nuance of the piece. For the first time in weeks, she found herself enjoying the music again, connecting with it in a way that had been impossible under Dr. Reynolds's constant criticism. As she played the final notes, her mother appeared in the doorway of the family room, a steaming mug of tea in her hands. "It's late," Mrs. Chen said, setting the tea down next to Lily. "You should rest." Lily flexed her fingers, which were stiff from hours of playing. "I know. I just want to be ready for tomorrow." Her mother sat down beside her on the piano bench. "You already are ready, Lily, more than ready. But what if Thomas recovers in time? All this extra practice will be for nothing." Mrs. Chen shook her head. "No practice is ever for nothing. Everything you learn, everything you feel when you play, it all becomes part of who you are as a musician." Lily leaned her head against her mother's shoulder, suddenly exhausted. "I just wish Dr. Reynolds could see what you see in me." "Some people can only see what they expect to see," her mother replied wisely. "But true talent has a way of making itself known, even to the most stubborn observers." With those words echoing in her mind, Lily finally went to bed, dreaming of music and second chances. Saturday morning arrived with gray skies and a steady drizzle of rain. Lily woke early, her stomach in knots as she stared at the ceiling. Today was the day of the competition, and she still didn't know if she would be performing. Last night, her father had received a text from Mr. Chen saying that Thomas was feeling better, but not completely recovered. The final decision would be made this morning. Lily got out of bed and went through her usual routine mechanically. Shower, breakfast, careful selection of her performance outfit. Just in case, she chose a simple dark blue dress with a modest neckline and knee-length skirt. Nothing flashy, but still formal enough for the occasion. Her mother had bought it specifically for the competition, back when everyone assumed Lily would be the one performing. "You look beautiful," Mrs. Chen said, appearing in the doorway of Lily's bedroom. "That color brings out your eyes." Lily gave a half-hearted smile, smoothing down the fabric. "Thanks, Mom, but it might not matter." "It matters," her mother insisted. "Whatever happens today, you're prepared. That's what counts." Downstairs, Lily's father was checking his phone, his brow furrowed. "Still no update," he reported when he saw Lily. "We should head to the hall. They want all performers there 2 hours before the competition starts." The drive to the Westlake Performing Arts Center was quiet, each member of the Chen family lost in their own thoughts. Lily stared out the window at the rain-slicked streets, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. She'd been to this venue before for previous competitions and concerts, but never with so much uncertainty hanging over her head. When they arrived, the parking lot was already filling with cars. Musicians from all over the state would be competing today, in various categories from solo instruments to full orchestras. Westlake Academy was scheduled to perform in the early afternoon session. "We'll be in the audience," Mrs. Chen said, giving Lily a tight hug. "No matter what happens, we're so proud of you." Lily nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She grabbed her sheet music and headed toward the performer's entrance, leaving her parents to find seats in the auditorium. Backstage was a flurry of activity. Students were warming up, instructors were giving last-minute advice, and stage managers were rushing about with clipboards and headsets. Lily looked around for any sign of the Westlake group, finally spotting Alex tuning a violin in a quiet corner. "Lily," Alex exclaimed, setting the violin down carefully. "Have you heard anything?" Lily shook her head. "Not yet. Is Thomas here?" "No one's seen him," Alex replied. "But Dr. Reynolds and Mr. Chen are in the green room with the other instructors. They've been in there for like 20 minutes already." Lily's heart began to race. What were they discussing? Had Thomas withdrawn from the competition? Or were they simply making last-minute adjustments to the program? Before she could speculate further, the door to the green room opened and Mr. Chen emerged, looking harried. His eyes scanned the backstage area until they landed on Lily. "There you are," he said, hurrying over. "We need to talk." Lily followed him to a quiet corner, her legs feeling suddenly weak. "Thomas is still sick," Mr. Chen explained without preamble. "He tried to come this morning, but his parents took him to urgent care instead. Food poisoning, apparently quite severe." "Oh," Lily said, processing this information. "I'm sorry to hear that," Mr. Chen nodded sympathetically. "It's unfortunate timing, but that means we need you to step in as our soloist today. Can you do that?" For a moment, Lily couldn't speak. After all the practice, all the disappointment, all the sitting on the sidelines, here was her chance. But instead of joy, she felt a wave of panic. "Does Dr. Reynolds know?" "Of course," Mr. Chen replied, his expression unreadable. "He's not entirely pleased with the situation, but we have no choice. The competition rules require a piano soloist for this category." "What did he say?" Lily asked, needing to know where she stood. Mr. Chen hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "That's not important right now. What matters is that you're prepared to perform." "Are you?" Lily thought about the countless hours she'd spent practicing, the emotional roller coaster of the past week, the way the music had finally started to flow when she played at home without pressure. "Yes," she said firmly. "I'm ready." "Good," Mr. Chen said, relief evident in his voice. "We perform in 2 hours. The orchestra will do a quick warm-up in the practice room in 30 minutes. Be there." As Mr. Chen walked away, Lily spotted Dr. Reynolds emerging from the green room, his face set in a grim expression. He looked around until he saw Lily, then headed straight for her. Lily straightened her posture, preparing herself for whatever criticism was coming. "I assume Mr. Chen has informed you of the situation," Dr. Reynolds said when he reached her. "Yes, sir. I'm stepping in for Thomas." Dr. Reynolds nodded curtly. "This is not ideal, but we have no alternative. You'll need to follow my direction precisely today. No improvisations, no attempts at artistic expression beyond what we've practiced. Just play the notes as written, with the dynamics we've rehearsed. The orchestra will support you, but don't try to lead them. Mr. Chen will handle that. Is that clear?" The instructions stung, but Lily nodded. "Yes, sir." "We'll meet in the practice room in 30 minutes for a final run-through," he added, already turning to leave. "Don't be late." As Dr. Reynolds walked away, Lily felt a hand on her arm. It was Alex, who had clearly overheard the entire exchange. "Don't listen to him," Alex whispered fiercely. "You play that piece your way. The way you do when no one's watching and judging." Lily gave a weak smile. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one he'll blame if things go wrong." "Things won't go wrong," Alex insisted. "You're going to be amazing. We all know it, even if he doesn't." The next 2 hours passed in a blur of activity. The orchestra's warm-up session was tense, with Dr. Reynolds micromanaging every aspect of Lily's playing, while largely ignoring the rest of the ensemble. Mr. Chen, to his credit, tried to maintain a positive atmosphere, but the strain was evident on everyone's faces. Before Lily knew it, they were being called to the stage for their performance. As they filed into position, she caught a glimpse of the audience through a gap in the curtains. The auditorium was packed, with hundreds of faces looking expectantly toward the stage. Somewhere out there, her parents were watching, believing in her even when she struggled to believe in herself. The stage manager gave the signal, and the curtains began to open. Lily took her position at the grand piano, adjusting the bench to the right height. The glossy black surface of the piano reflected the stage lights, creating an almost magical glow. This was a much finer instrument than the one she practiced on at home, or even the ones at Westlake Academy. Mr. Chen stepped onto the podium, nodding to the orchestra members as they prepared to begin. From the wings, Lily could see Dr. Reynolds watching with arms crossed, his expression tense. Taking a deep breath, Lily placed her fingers on the keys, waiting for Mr. Chen's cue. The audience fell silent, the only sound the soft rustle of programs and the occasional cough. Mr. Chen raised his baton, caught Lily's eye, and gave a reassuring nod. Then he brought the baton down, and the orchestra began to play the opening measures of the piece. Lily counted the bars, her heart pounding as her entrance approached. 4 bars, 3, 2, 1. Her fingers touched the keys, and the first notes of her solo rang out across the auditorium. They were clean, precise, just as she'd practiced hundreds of times. But something felt different today. Perhaps it was the quality of the piano, or the acoustics of the hall, or simply the knowledge that this was her one chance to prove herself. Whatever the reason, the music seemed to flow through her with an intensity she'd never experienced before. As the piece progressed, Lily found herself forgetting about Dr. Reynolds, forgetting about Thomas, forgetting about everything except the music itself. The notes on the page transformed into pure emotion, joy, sorrow, hope, longing, all expressed through her fingertips. The orchestra responded to her playing, following her lead rather than the other way around, creating a harmony that felt almost magical. In the more technically challenging passages that had once felt like obstacles to overcome, Lily now found freedom. Her fingers danced across the keys with a confidence that surprised even her. The hours of practice had built a foundation, but it was her emotional connection to the music that brought it to life. From the corner of her eye, Lily could see Mr. Chen conducting with an expression of delighted surprise. Even the orchestra members, who had heard her play this piece in rehearsals many times, seemed captivated by her performance. Only Dr. Reynolds remained unmoved, his face a mask of professional detachment as he watched from the wings. As Lily approached the final movement of the piece, a surge of adrenaline carried her playing to new heights. The music swelled around her, the orchestra matching her intensity note for note. In this moment, she wasn't just a last-minute replacement or a second-choice performer. She was exactly where she was meant to be, doing exactly what she was born to do. The final notes approached, the culmination of months of work and years of training. Lily poured everything she had into those last measures, her fingers striking the keys with precision and passion in equal measure. And then silence. The last note hung in the air for a breathless moment before fading away. In that fraction of a second, Lily felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, pride, a touch of sadness that it was over. And then the audience erupted into applause. The applause was like nothing Lily had ever experienced before. It started as a polite response, the kind audiences always give at these competitions, but quickly grew into something more powerful. People were standing up from their seats, clapping with genuine enthusiasm. Some were even cheering, behavior usually considered inappropriate at classical music events. For a moment, Lily sat frozen at the piano, unable to believe the reaction. She'd been so lost in the music that she hadn't even considered how the audience might respond. Now, facing their overwhelming approval, she felt a rush of emotions: pride, relief, joy, and a hint of disbelief. Mr. Chen turned to her, beaming, and gestured for her to stand and take a bow. On shaky legs, Lily rose from the piano bench and faced the audience. The applause grew even louder. In the front rows, she could see judges making notes on their clipboards, their expressions thoughtful but positive. And there, about 10 rows back, were her parents. Her mother was openly crying, while her father clapped so hard it looked like his hands might hurt later. Their faces shone with pride, and Lily felt tears welling in her own eyes. She took a deep bow, then turned to acknowledge the orchestra behind her. The other students were smiling and nodding appreciatively. Alex in the violin section gave her a subtle thumbs up. As Lily took a second bow, her eyes drifted to the wings of the stage, where Dr. Reynolds stood watching. His expression was difficult to read, a mixture of surprise and something else. Not quite approval, but perhaps a reluctant reassessment. After 3 bows, the stage manager signaled that it was time to clear the stage for the next performers. Lily followed the orchestra off, her legs still wobbly from the adrenaline of the performance. Backstage, her fellow students surrounded her with congratulations. That was incredible. "I've never heard you play like that before. Where have you been hiding those skills?" Alex pushed through the crowd to give Lily a quick hug. I told you you'd be amazing." Lily smiled, still feeling slightly dazed by the experience. "Thanks, it felt different out there." "Good different." "Different is an understatement," said a voice from behind them. The students parted to reveal Mr. Chen, his face glowing with pride. "Lily, that was exceptional. Truly exceptional." "Thank you, Mr. Chen," Lily replied, feeling her cheeks grow warm at the praise. "I've conducted many student soloists over the years," Mr. Chen continued, "but rarely have I heard one play with such emotional depth. You weren't just playing the notes. You were telling a story. Before Lily could respond, her parents appeared, having navigated their way backstage. Her mother immediately enveloped her in a tight hug. "Oh, sweetheart," Mrs. Chen whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You were wonderful." Her father joined the hug, his strong arms encircling both of them. "That's my girl," he said proudly. "That's my incredible girl." When they finally released her, Lily noticed that a small crowd had gathered nearby. Among them were several well-dressed adults carrying programs and wearing competition staff badges. One woman stepped forward, extending her hand to Lily. "Hello, Lily. I'm Professor Walker from the National Conservatory." That was quite a performance. Lily shook her hand, eyes widening in surprise. The National Conservatory was one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. "Thank you, ma'am. I'd love to speak with you about your future plans," Professor Walker continued. "We're always looking for talented young pianists at the conservatory." Another person stepped forward, a tall man with silver-rimmed glasses. "David Mercer, Riverside Music Academy." Equally impressed. "Do you have representation yet?" Lily looked at her parents in confusion. "Representation?" "An agent," Mr. Mercer clarified. "Someone to help manage performance opportunities." "Oh," Lily said, feeling overwhelmed. "No, I don't." Her father stepped in smoothly. "Perhaps we could exchange contact information and continue these conversations after the competition results." It's been quite an emotional day for Lily. As the adults exchanged business cards and made arrangements to talk later, Lily noticed Dr. Reynolds standing at the edge of the backstage area, watching the scene unfold. His usual stern expression had been replaced by something more complex. Not quite regret, but perhaps a dawning realization. Excusing herself from the group, Lily walked over to him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "That was unexpected," Dr. Reynolds finally said. Lily waited, unsure how to respond. "You played differently today," he continued. "Not at all how we practiced." "I know," Lily admitted. "I just felt the music differently on stage." Dr. Reynolds nodded slowly. "It worked. This time." It wasn't exactly praise, but coming from Dr. Reynolds, it was significant. Lily had expected criticism, perhaps even anger that she had deviated from his instructions. This grudging acknowledgement was a surprise. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to study with you," Lily said, feeling a strange sense of closure. Whatever happened next, whether she won the competition or not, whether she continued at Westlake or pursued opportunities elsewhere, she had proven something to herself today. And maybe, just maybe, to Dr. Reynolds as well. Before he could respond, they were interrupted by a competition official announcing that all performers should return to their seats in the auditorium for the results. The next hour was a blur as Lily sat with the Westlake Orchestra, waiting through performances by other schools and finally the judges' deliberations. When the head judge took the stage to announce the results, Lily found herself holding hands with Alex on one side and another orchestra member on the other, all of them tense with anticipation. In the high school orchestra with featured soloist category, the judge began. "Third place goes to Riverdale Academy." Polite applause filled the auditorium as the Riverdale students went up to accept their trophy. "Second place," the judge continued, "is awarded to St. Mary's School of Music." More applause, slightly more subdued from the remaining contenders who now knew they had either won first place or received no recognition at all. "And first place," the judge said, pausing for dramatic effect, "is awarded to Westlake Music Academy featuring pianist Lily Chen." The Westlake section erupted in cheers. Lily sat in shock as her fellow students jumped to their feet around her. Alex tugged at her arm, pulling her up and toward the stage. "We won. Lily, we won because of you." In a daze, Lily followed Mr. Chen and a group of orchestra representatives onto the stage to accept the trophy. The head judge shook her hand warmly. "Exceptional performance, young lady," he said, his voice carrying to the microphone. "The judges were particularly impressed by the emotional maturity of your playing. It's rare to hear such depth from a performer your age." As Mr. Chen accepted the trophy on behalf of Westlake, Lily glanced out at the audience. Her parents were on their feet, clapping and beaming with pride. Near them, Professor Walker and Mr. Mercer were deep in conversation, occasionally glancing at Lily with interest. And there, at the back of the auditorium, stood Dr. Reynolds, Unlike the rest of the Westlake supporters, he wasn't applauding. Instead, he was watching the scene with an unreadable expression. As Lily's gaze met his, several audience members near him turned to look in his direction. Their expressions were less friendly, with some openly frowning at the instructor. Word had clearly spread about how he had replaced Lily, only for her to step in at the last minute and deliver a winning performance. The contrast between her success and his lack of faith in her abilities was not lost on the audience, many of whom were parents of music students themselves. One father, seated near Dr. Reynolds, said something to him that Lily couldn't hear. Dr. Reynolds responded stiffly, then turned and walked toward the exit. Audience members watching his departure with disapproving looks. Lily felt a momentary pang of sympathy for her instructor. Despite his harsh methods and lack of faith in her, he had still taught her much over the years. But that sympathy was quickly overshadowed by the joy of the moment as Mr. Chen handed her the trophy to hold, and her fellow students surrounded her with congratulations. Later, as the auditorium cleared and the Westlake students gathered their instruments and belongings, Mr. Chen approached Lily with an unusual request. "The competition organizers would like you to play an encore," he said, his eyes twinkling. "Apparently, several of the judges and representatives from music schools want to hear you play again. It's quite an honor. They don't ask for encores often." Lily blinked in surprise. "What should I play?" "Whatever you want," Mr. Chen replied. "This is your moment, Lily. You've earned it." As the word spread that Lily would be performing an encore, audience members who had been leaving began to return to their seats. The auditorium, which had been emptying, began to fill again. Lily walked back to the piano, her mind racing through pieces she knew well enough to play without sheet music. As she sat down at the bench, adjusting it slightly, she made her decision. She would play a piece she had learned before studying with Dr. Reynolds, one that had always brought her joy. It wasn't as technically demanding as the Chopin, but it had a beautiful, haunting melody that had always spoken to her heart. Taking a deep breath, Lily placed her fingers on the keys and began to play Debussy's Clair de Lune. The gentle, flowing notes filled the auditorium, creating an atmosphere of tranquil beauty after the intense emotions of the competition. As she played, Lily felt completely at peace. The pressure was gone. There were no judges to impress, no standards to meet except her own. This performance was purely for the love of music, a celebration of the journey that had brought her to this moment. And as the final notes faded away, Lily knew that whatever came next in her musical career, she would never forget the day when she found her true voice at the piano. The weeks following the competition passed in a whirlwind for Lily. News of her performance spread quickly through the musical community, and her phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends, classmates, and even local news outlets requesting interviews. "Can you believe this?" Lily asked her parents one evening as they sat in their living room, sorting through a stack of business cards and brochures from various music schools and programs. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't even going to perform, and now everyone wants to talk to me." Her father chuckled, picking up an elegant brochure from the National Conservatory. "That's what happens when you show the world what you're capable of. People take notice." Mrs. Chen nodded in agreement, but her expression was more thoughtful. "The question is, what do you want to do next, Lily? These are wonderful opportunities, but you don't have to rush into anything." Lily leaned back on the couch, considering the question. So much had changed so quickly that she'd barely had time to think about what she wanted. "I'm not sure yet," she admitted. "Part of me wants to explore these new opportunities, but another part of me still loves Westlake." Despite everything, her parents exchanged a look, and Lily knew they were thinking about Dr. Reynolds. Since the competition, she hadn't spoken to him directly. Her scheduled lessons had been temporarily reassigned to another instructor, Ms. Rivera, who had a much gentler teaching style. The official explanation was that Dr. Reynolds was taking a short sabbatical, but rumors suggested that the academy administration was reconsidering his methods after what happened at the competition. "Whatever you decide, we'll support you," her father assured her. "Just don't feel pressured to make a choice right away." The following Monday, Lily returned to Westlake for her regular classes. As she walked through the hallways, she noticed people looking at her differently. Students who had barely acknowledged her before now smiled and waved. Teachers stopped her to offer congratulations. In the cafeteria at lunch, Alex slid into the seat across from her. You're basically a celebrity now, Alex teased. I should start charging for autographs on your behalf. Lily rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Very funny. It's not that big a deal. Not that big a deal, Alex repeated incredulously. Lily, you won the regional competition, got standing ovations, and have music schools fighting over you. Plus, you totally showed up Dr. Reynolds in front of everyone. It's the biggest deal that's happened at Westlake in years. Speaking of Dr. Reynolds, Lily said, lowering her voice. Have you heard anything? Is he really on sabbatical? Alex leaned in conspiratorially. Well, according to my sources, and by sources I mean my mom who's friends with the academy secretary, there was a big meeting with the board of directors. Apparently several parents complained about how he treated you and other students. They're reviewing his teaching methods. Lily absorbed this information with mixed feelings. She hadn't wanted to cause trouble for Dr. Reynolds despite his harsh treatment. He was still a talented musician and knew a lot about piano. His methods, however harsh, had pushed her to improve. I hope they don't fire him, she said finally. He just needs to learn there are better ways to teach than constant criticism. Always seeing the good in people, Alex said, shaking her head. That's why everyone likes you. Well, everyone except Thomas, maybe. Thomas, Lily asked, surprised. Why wouldn't he like me? Oh, he's back at school today, Alex explained. Fully recovered from the food poisoning, but probably not from being upstaged. He was supposed to be the star, and now everyone's talking about you instead. The thought hadn't occurred to Lily. That's ridiculous. It's not like I planned for any of this to happen. I know that, and most people know that, Alex assured her. But you know how competitive Thomas can be. Just be prepared if he's a bit cold. Lily didn't have to wait long to find out. That afternoon, as she headed to the practice rooms, she ran into Thomas in the hallway. There was an awkward moment as they both stopped, unsure what to say. Hi, Lily said finally. How are you feeling? I heard the food poisoning was pretty bad, Thomas shrugged. Better now. Congratulations on the win. You played well. Thanks, Lily replied, sensing the stiffness in his voice. I'm sorry you couldn't perform after all your hard work. These things happen, Thomas said with forced casualness. Anyway, I hear you're getting offers from conservatories now. Lily nodded, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. A few. I haven't decided on anything yet. Well, good luck with whatever you choose, Thomas said, already moving past her. I should go. I have a makeup lesson with Ms. Rivera. As Thomas walked away, Lily felt a pang of sadness. She and Thomas had never been close friends, but they'd always been cordial as fellow piano students. Now there was a distance between them that hadn't existed before. Later that day, Lily was practicing in her favorite room when there was a knock at the door. She stopped playing, expecting to see Alex or maybe Ms. Rivera for her afternoon lesson. Instead, Dr. Reynolds stood in the doorway. May I come in? He asked, his usual authoritative tone subdued. Surprised, Lily nodded. Of course. Dr. Reynolds entered the room but remained standing, his posture as straight as ever. I understand you've been working with Ms. Rivera in my absence. Yes, Lily confirmed. She's been very helpful, Dr. Reynolds nodded. She's an excellent teacher. Different approach than mine, but effective in her own way. There was an awkward silence as Lily waited for him to continue. It was strange seeing her usually confident instructor looking almost uncertain. I've been doing some reflecting these past 2 weeks, Dr. Reynolds finally said, about my teaching methods, my interactions with students, particularly with you. Lily remained silent, hardly believing what she was hearing. I watched your performance at the competition, he continued. Not just the Chopin piece, but your encore as well. The Debussy. I didn't know you were still there for the encore, Lily said, surprised. I left briefly, but I came back, Dr. Reynolds admitted. I wanted to hear what you would choose to play without any direction from me. And? Lily asked, curious despite herself. Dr. Reynolds' expression softened slightly. It was beautiful. Different from how I would have instructed you to play it, but undeniably moving. It made me realize something important. He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. For years I've believed there was only one right way to approach music, with technical perfection and controlled emotion. I pushed my students to play the way I thought was correct, the way I was taught. But your performance, it challenged that belief. Lily wasn't sure how to respond. She'd never expected Dr. Reynolds, of all people, to question his own methods. I'm not saying my approach was entirely wrong, he clarified quickly. Technical precision is still essential. But I've come to understand that there's more than one path to musical excellence. Your path is different from mine, and that's valid. The admission clearly cost him something in pride, but he seemed determined to say it. The Academy has asked me to reconsider my teaching approach, Dr. Reynolds continued, to find a balance between technical training and allowing students to develop their own musical voice. I've agreed to try. I think that's wonderful, Lily said sincerely. Your knowledge of music is incredible, Dr. Reynolds. If you could share that without the... She hesitated, searching for a diplomatic word. Without the unnecessary harshness, he supplied, a hint of a smile crossing his face. You can say it, Lily. I'm aware of my reputation. Well, yes, Lily agreed, relieved that he'd said it himself. You could help so many more students if they weren't afraid of making mistakes around you. Dr. Reynolds nodded thoughtfully. That's what Ms. Rivera said as well. She's been giving me some guidance on alternative teaching techniques. The idea of strict Dr. Reynolds taking teaching advice from the gentler Ms. Rivera was almost funny, but Lily kept her expression neutral. The reason I came to see you today, Dr. Reynolds continued, is to congratulate you properly on your performance, and to ask if you'd be willing to continue studying with me when I return to teaching next month. With the understanding that my approach will be different. Lily was stunned by the request. After everything that had happened, she'd assumed her time studying with Dr. Reynolds was over. I understand if you'd prefer to continue with Ms. Rivera, he added when she didn't immediately respond. Or if you've decided to accept one of the offers from the conservatories. I've heard there have been several. There have, Lily acknowledged, but I haven't made any decisions yet. I'm still considering my options. Well, I hope you'll consider including Westlake among those options, Dr. Reynolds said. Despite our differences, I believe you have extraordinary potential, Lily. I would be honored to continue working with you if you're willing. The sincerity in his voice was something Lily had never heard before. It moved her more than she expected. I'll think about it, she promised. Thank you for the offer. Dr. Reynolds nodded, looking satisfied with her response. That's all I ask. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Lily? Professor Walker from the National Conservatory called me for a reference. I told her you were the most talented student I've worked with in 20 years of teaching. Because it's true. With that, he left, closing the door quietly behind him. Lily sat at the piano, her fingers resting lightly on the keys as she processed what had just happened. In the space of a few weeks, her world had been turned upside down. From being replaced as soloist to winning the competition to receiving recognition from prestigious music schools. And now, perhaps most surprisingly of all, earning the genuine respect of Dr. Reynolds. She began to play again, a simple melody that had been forming in her mind these past few days. Not Chopin or Debussy or any other composer, but her own creation. As the notes filled the practice room, Lily smiled to herself. Whatever path she chose next, whether staying at Westlake with a changed Dr. Reynolds accepting one of the conservatory offers, or something else entirely, she knew one thing for certain. She had found her voice at that piano during the competition, and she would never lose it again. The music she created now was neither technically perfect nor emotionally overwrought. It was simply authentic, her own unique expression flowing through her fingers to the keys. And in the end, that was the most valuable lesson she could have learned.